Silence is not a punishment, it's a filter, and many people hate it because it reveals exactly what they were depending on. When no one calls, your worth doesn't disappear. What disappears is the illusion that your calm was coming from outside, and of course the ego gets dramatic. It turns a normal day into a trial, a quiet afternoon into a test of love. But the truth is simpler and more useful. If your peace needs someone to look for you, then it wasn't peace, it was entertainment. Stay with me. Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. Today we're going to walk through 9 practical ideas to stop waiting for calls, let go of the need for attention, and build a solid calm at this stage of life. A calm that doesn't break even when the phone doesn't ring. And by the end you'll walk away with a clear way to live your day with dignity, direction and freedom, without depending emotionally on anyone. Let's begin. 1. Accept the silence without dramatizing and stop begging for attention, because this needs to be said plainly. The phone is not an altar, and you are not a worshipper waiting for a miracle. Silence exists, period. And the sooner you stop fighting that reality, the sooner you regain control of your mind. The problem isn't that there are days without calls. The problem is what you do with those days. You sit down, look at the screen, check if there's signal, make up excuses so the emptiness hurts less, and when no one shows up, you swallow that poisonous idea. No one cares about me anymore, and that's how you turn normal silence into a personal soap opera drama. The worst part is that without realizing it, you become a well-dressed beggar. You don't ask for coins, you ask for attention. You don't extend your hand, you extend your expectation. And when someone finally shows up, you no longer greet them with joy, you greet them with hunger. With that tone of "so you finally remembered," with that resentment disguised as a joke. And that's where you kill what little was still beautiful. At some point, many people were taught that company is proof of worth, that if they call you, you exist, that if they look for you, you matter. That's a lie. People have their own lives, their own messes, their own exhaustion, their own world. And yes, sometimes they're distracted, sometimes selfish, sometimes emotionally distant. But your dignity cannot be tied to other people's behavior like a rope. What you need to understand is this. Silence doesn't mean rejection, it means space. And space, when you're an adult, is a privilege if you know how to use it. Because in silence, you're not losing anyone. You're recovering yourself. You're seeing clearly how much you had been abandoning yourself just to stay focused on others. And here comes a question that makes many people uncomfortable halfway through this journey, which is exactly why it's useful. How many times have you been with people and still felt alone? How many times have people called you and you still ended up with that empty feeling, like they gave you a quick pat on the back and moved on? Then what was missing wasn't company. It was inner peace. Stop begging for attention also means stopping putting yourself in line to be chosen. Because when you call from anxiety, from urgency, it shows. You can feel it. It's like knocking on a door in desperation while pretending you were just passing by. Ridiculous. Call when you want to connect, not when you want to fill a hole. Picture this simple image. If your life is a house, silence is when you finally turn off the television and listen for creaks, leaks, or a window that wasn't closed properly. It's annoying, yes, but it saves you, because it shows you what you didn't want to see. And that's the first step to stop living on crumbs. When you accept silence without dramatizing it, your presence changes. You're no longer anxious. You no longer react as if people owe you something. You stop chasing. And the irony is that when you stop chasing, many people start coming closer again. Not because they're rewarding you, but because your energy no longer suffocates them. Your peace cannot be a plea. It has to be a posture. 2. Let go of the expectation of calls and reclaim your dignity. Because missing someone is one thing, but living in constant waiting is something very different. Waiting makes you soft, reactive, dependent, and you didn't come this far just to spend your days in maybe today they will mode. Expectation is a silent trap. You don't see it, but it runs the show. It dictates your mood for the day, shifts your emotions, makes you interpret everything. If the phone rings, you feel alive. If it doesn't, you feel erased. And just like that, without anyone touching you or saying a word, you raise and lower your own value like a window blind. The first blow of dignity is accepting something uncomfortable. No one is obligated to hold you up emotionally. It sounds harsh, but it's freeing. Obligation doesn't create love, it creates weight. And when you demand something in your mind, even if you never say it, the other person feels it as pressure. Expectation isn't affection, it's control in disguise. The Stoics were almost obsessive about this for a reason. Epictetus, who went from slave to teacher, repeated that the only thing truly yours is your judgment, your choice, your response. It wasn't poetry, it was survival. If your calm depends on what someone else does, then you're not running your life. Other people are, even if they don't realize it. And this is where many people fool themselves with a phrase that sounds nice, but is poisonous. If they cared about me, they would call. As if love were measured by frequency rather than quality. As if people didn't have bad days, problems, distractions, or clumsy moments. And yes, disinterest exists too, of course, but even if it were disinterest, why would you keep handing your center to someone who doesn't take care of it? Halfway through this point, it helps to ask yourself something that cuts through fantasy. Are you waiting for a call, or are you waiting for confirmation that you still matter? Because those are not the same thing. The first is normal. The second turns you into a hostage. And the tragic part is that this confirmation never lasts. They call, you feel calm for a while, and tomorrow you'll need another dose. Reclaiming your dignity means making a pact with yourself. If I want to talk, I'll call. If I want to see someone, I'll suggest it. And if it doesn't happen, I don't humiliate myself, I don't insist, I don't create drama. I don't turn a "I can't" into a "they don't love me." I don't turn silence into a sentence. Adult dignity means knowing how to walk away without a scene. It also means cleaning up your small gestures. No sending messages with hidden hints. No posting statuses so that someone sees them. No dropping victim phrases to fish for guilt. That's not communication. That's clumsy manipulation. And yes, I say clumsy because in the end it leaves you worse off. It leaves you with embarrassment and an even bigger need. When you let go of expectation, something strange and beautiful happens. Silence no longer humiliates you. It accompanies you. And from there, you decide who to approach, with what energy, and with what boundaries. You don't become cold. You become free. And that freedom is dignity in its simplest form. Living without begging for presents, without demanding proof, without asking for love like a favor. You're not here to wait. You're here to stand on your own. 3. Stop interpreting absence as contempt and protect your mind. Because there's a habit that destroys more than silence itself, inventing intentions. Your mind sees a quiet phone and immediately builds a story. They're not calling because they don't care. They must be with someone else. I've been replaced. And you say it as if it were a fact, when in reality it's an invention that you're paying for dearly. The mind, when it has no data, manufactures explanations. And if you're feeling sensitive, it manufactures the worst one, not because you're foolish, but because fear has a great imagination. Fear is creative, incredibly fast and dramatic, and you let it run the day as if it were a trustworthy advisor. Spoiler, it isn't. Absence can mean 1,000 things, and you choose the one that hurts you the most. It could be exhaustion, routine, problems, forgetfulness, clumsiness, distance, even poorly managed affection. Yes, it can also be disinterest, but if it is disinterest, the sensible response isn't to sink, it's to get your life in order. Real contempt is recognized through patterns, not through a single quiet day. And even if it were contempt, it doesn't benefit you to turn it into your identity. Because that's the poisonous trick. When you interpret everything as rejection, you become someone who lives on the defensive. You grow rough, sharp, resentful, and then of course people call less. And you say, "See, I was right." It wasn't truth, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. In the middle of this point, here's an uncomfortable question because it's useful. What do you gain by punishing yourself over something you don't even know is true? What do you achieve by hitting yourself in the head with assumptions? The answer is usually sad. You gain the illusion of control. If you assume the worst, you think you're preparing yourself not to suffer. But you're not preparing. You're poisoning yourself. Protecting your mind means putting a door in front of automatic thoughts. Not everything you think deserves to live with you. Learn to tell yourself, "I don't have proof, so I won't turn this into a verdict." Learn to stop the impulse to check your phone the way someone checks a wound to see if it's bleeding less. It bleeds more, obviously. And here's a very adult detail. If someone pulls away, you don't need to chase or interpret. You need to observe. Watch the behavior calmly. If there is interest, there will be signs. If there aren't, you don't need drama. You need dignity. You step back, stay busy, take care of yourself, and you remove from your mind that movie where you are always the victim, because that movie doesn't let you live. Silence is not telling you you are worthless. It's giving you space to think clearly, and clarity must be protected the way you protect a flame, by avoiding the wind of assumption and the fuel of resentment. Your mind is not a garbage dump for sad interpretations. It's your home, take care of it. 4. Put your daily life in order and build peace with routine, not with company. Because if your day is empty, any absence weighs twice as much. A day without structure turns into a huge hall where the echo of loneliness throws a party. And then, of course, you wait for a call the way someone waits for rescue from boredom. Peace doesn't appear by magic. It's built. And it's built with small things repeated with respect. A decent routine isn't a prison. It's scaffolding. It holds you up when your mood is weak. It gives you direction when no one is around. And it reminds you that your life doesn't depend on surprise visits. Some people say, I have nothing to do. No. You have an entire day, you have a body, you have a mind, you have a home, you have an environment. The truth is you're waiting for life to be handed to you already chewed in the form of someone else's conversation. And kindly said, that's emotional laziness. Start with the basics. Wake up at a reasonable time. Open the windows. Make your bed. Move your body a little. Eat like a person who respects themselves. Keep your hands busy. Keep your mind engaged. Not to distract yourself, but to inhabit your own life. Because when your day has pillars, silence stops feeling like a collapse. Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor and still had dark days in his mind, repeated a simple idea in his meditations: do what is yours to do here and now, with dignity. He didn't say it to sound profound. He said it because he understood that the mind calms down when the body and the will are in order. And halfway through this point, let me ask you directly, how much of your discomfort comes from silence, and how much comes from disorder? How much are you suffering because no one calls, and how much because you don't have a plan for yourself? Because when you keep your own word to yourself, when you stay engaged in your own life, the need for someone else to fill the gaps fades on its own. This isn't about staying busy like a maniac. It's about living with intention. Having moments of rest, yes, but real rest. Not that anxious rest where you're resting while checking your phone every 5 minutes. Take a walk, read something, handle a task. Do something that makes you feel useful. Something that makes you feel present. Company is a beautiful extra when it arrives, but routine is the floor, and the floor is not negotiable. If you build a solid day, silence stops scaring you because it no longer finds you empty. It finds you living. 5. Take care of your body and your energy so you don't depend emotionally on anyone, because there's something nobody wants to admit. Many emotional crises aren't crises of the soul. They're lack of sleep, too much sugar, zero movement, and a mind that's already tired looking for drama to justify the discomfort. When the body is weak, the mind becomes melodramatic. You wake up heavy, everything aches. You eat whatever is convenient. You don't go outside to get some air. And then you're surprised that silence hits you like a hammer. It's not the silence. Your system just has no battery left and anything can knock it down. That's why you see people who laugh about the same problem on a good day, and on a bad day they sink because a call never came. The difference isn't the world, it's internal energy. And here comes the part almost nobody wants to hear. If you don't take care of your body, you become easier to manipulate through your need. Because when you're weak, you look for an emotional crutch, and that crutch is usually another person. Start with the simple things, the ones people avoid the most. Sleep like someone who takes life seriously. Eat like someone who respects themselves. Walk a little even if you don't feel like it. Drink water instead of living on coffee and excuses. You don't need to become an athlete. You need to stop treating your body like a rag that exists only to endure. And right here comes the question that breaks the illusion. How many times have you felt forgotten, and then after eating well or getting a good night's sleep, the drama suddenly faded? See, it wasn't contempt, it was exhaustion. Taking care of your body also gives you something people notice without you saying a word. Presence. Not the kind that screams, "Look at me," but the kind that belongs to someone who is whole. When you're whole, you don't beg, you don't crawl, You don't interpret everything. You become more selective, and being selective is an act of self-respect. So if no one calls you and it hurts, before making a universal judgment about your life, look at the basics. How you're sleeping, how you're eating, how much you're moving, how much sunlight is hitting your face. Because sometimes what you call loneliness is just your body asking for order. And when you give it that order, your mind stops asking for rescue in the form of someone else's attention. 6. Choose quality connections and avoid relationships that only appear when they need something. Because no, you don't need more people, you need better people. And above all, you need the courage to accept that some presences are noise, not companionship. There are relationships that show up when you give, when you serve, when you're available. But they disappear the moment you set a boundary, the moment you say not today, the moment you're no longer there to entertain anyone. That isn't friendship. That's consumption. They use you the way someone uses a comfortable piece of furniture until you get tired and then they look for another chair. The sad thing is that many people prefer that kind of relationship to being alone, because it feels like something, even if it's cheap, even if it leaves you empty afterward, even if it makes you feel like you're only useful when it's convenient for someone else. That's where your dignity has to speak. There are simple signs. A quality person doesn't drain you. They add to your life. They don't make you feel guilty for existing. They don't show up only to ask for things, complain, unload their life on you, and then disappear. And when you notice that it's always you holding everything together, writing first, calling first, adjusting first, then there's no reciprocity. There's just habit. Heracles, a Stoic who spoke a lot about duty and community, said it without romantic language. Bring people closer into your circle of concern through concrete actions, not abstract words. In other words, fewer beautiful speeches and more real behavior. Quality is measured in small, consistent actions, not promises like we should get together sometime that never happen. And halfway through this point, here's a question worth its weight in gold. Who do you really miss, the person or the feeling of not being alone? Because if it's the second, you're idealizing anyone just to avoid listening to yourself. Choosing quality connections sometimes means accepting that your circle will be smaller, and that's fine. Better a few real people than a crowd of shadows. Better one sincere conversation once in a while than 20 empty messages that only feed anxiety. And avoiding relationships based on convenience also means something very concrete. Stop giving people unlimited access to you as if you were on clearance. Your time has value, your attention has value, your presence has value. If someone only shows up when it suits them, you can also learn to be busy without guilt, with calm elegance. Because peace isn't built only with routine, it's also built with selection. And choosing carefully at this stage of life is an act of self-respect. 7. Learn to enjoy your own company and become your best friend. It sounds simple, but it scares many people, because being alone with yourself in silence forces you to face what you've been avoiding. That's why people fill their lives with noise, visits, television, messages, anything that creates the feeling that there's life. As if life only existed when someone else is watching. Here's an idea that changes everything. Your most important relationship is not with your children, your friends, your partner, or anyone else. It's with yourself. Because everyone else leaves, gets distracted, moves away, dies, changes, relocates, gets busy, you remain. So why treat yourself like someone you don't even like? Enjoying your own company doesn't mean becoming a hermit or saying, I don't need anyone. Don't go that far. It means stopping the belief that being alone means being incomplete. It means being able to sit with a cup of coffee and feel calm. Walking without the urgent need to tell someone every step. Looking at a quiet afternoon and thinking, this is life too, instead of, this is failure. Because when you can't stand yourself, anyone becomes anesthesia. You grab onto whoever is available just so you don't have to hear your own thoughts. And that's where strange relationships begin. Expectations, resentment, indirect comments. All that drama grows from the same root. You're not comfortable with yourself. Start with small things, almost ridiculous ones, but powerful. Speak to yourself with respect. Don't insult yourself internally as if you were your own enemy. Don't say, I'm a burden when the phone doesn't ring. Don't treat yourself like a problem. Treat yourself like someone who is learning how to live better. And in the end, people can feel this. Someone who genuinely likes themselves doesn't go around asking permission to exist. They don't put themselves on display waiting to be chosen. They carry a quiet peace that they don't show off, but it commands respect. Not because they're arrogant, but because they feel at home inside their own skin. That's the goal. Not to receive more calls, but for it to hurt less when you don't, because you're already in good company with yourself. 8. Fill your time with purpose and service, not nostalgia, because nostalgia is a sweet hole. It feels good for a while, warms you inside, and then leaves you emptier than before. You sit remembering when the house was full, when everyone depended on you, when the phone never stopped ringing, and you compare that past with the present as if it were an unfair competition. Of course you'll feel depressed if you do that every day. The past doesn't return, and that isn't tragedy, it's law. The real tragedy is staying there, living as if your life already ended, and now all that's left is looking at photos. No, you're still here. You still have something to give. You can still build days that make you proud. Purpose doesn't have to be huge. You don't need a grand project to feel meaning. Sometimes purpose is caring for a garden, learning something new, fixing a part of your house, walking with discipline, reading with intention, helping a neighbor, accompanying someone else who is also alone. Service is not sacrifice. Service is remembering that you are still useful, that you still have practical value in the world. Seneca, who witnessed power, loss, and chaos up close, insisted on something very human. Time is the only thing that truly belongs to you, and yet it's the thing we give away most easily. He didn't say that as a poster philosopher. He said it because he knew that when you don't decide what to do with your day, the day drags you. And when the day drags you, it takes you straight into nostalgia. So change the question. Instead of asking, why don't they look for me anymore? Ask yourself, what can I build today, even if it's small? Because when your day has purpose, absence stops being the main theme. It becomes a detail, just another quiet moment, not a sacred void. And yes, there will be moments of sadness, that's normal. But sadness is not argued with through memories, it is accompanied through action. A decent action, a simple action, one that makes you feel alive. If you fill your time with purpose, nostalgia loses its power. And when nostalgia loses its power, you begin to breathe again like someone who is still walking, not someone who stayed behind waiting. 9. Strengthen your self-respect and live this stage of life with calm and freedom. If no one calls you, it's not a signal to give up. It's a signal to return to yourself. Because what hurts you isn't the silence itself. What hurts is the idea that your worth needs witnesses. And at this stage of life, that's a burden you should have already let go. Self-respect is not looking in the mirror and repeating nice phrases. That lasts as long as your mood lasts. Self-respect is treatment. It's how you speak to yourself when you feel forgotten. It's how you hold yourself steady when the day feels slow. It's how you defend yourself from the habit of comparing the present to the past, as if life used to be better just because there was more noise around you. Some people reach later life with something broken inside and don't even notice, because they spent their whole lives covering it with work, children, responsibilities, urgency. When all that quiets down, silence appears, and with it, the truth. It isn't a tragedy, it's an opportunity. The opportunity to stop searching outside for what was always an inner task. Epictetus explained it with a clarity that almost offends the ego. He said, "We're not disturbed by what happens, but by the judgment we make about what happens." And he wasn't a comfortable man giving advice from an armchair. He was a slave who knew real suffering. So when he says the judgment is yours, he's telling you that freedom begins there, in refusing to hand your mind over to the saddest interpretation. Strengthening your self-respect also means something very concrete. Learning to tell yourself, "I am here," without needing someone else to confirm it. Taking care of your home like a temple, even if no one visits. Dressing with dignity, even if you have no plans. Preparing yourself a proper meal, even if you eat alone. Going for a walk, even if nobody accompanies you. Not to prove anything, but because that is your way of showing your self-respect. And yes, you can still want company. There's no need to turn into stone. But now company enters your life as a guest, not as a crutch. If it comes, good. If it doesn't, you don't collapse, because your center is no longer hanging from a doorbell. Let me leave you with one last question to carry with you calmly. If today no one calls you, will you treat yourself like someone who has no value, or like someone who finally has the space to live with calm and freedom? Everything is decided there, in how you choose yourself when no one is watching. In the end, peace is not begged for, and it is not negotiated with a phone. It is built when you stop dramatizing silence, release expectations, clear your mind of interpretations, organize your days, and return to yourself with respect. Because the real problem was never that other people were busy. The problem was that you had placed your worth in other people's hands. Now bring this into your real life with one simple decision. Today, even if no one shows up, you keep your word to yourself. You get up with intention, take care of your body, choose your relationships carefully, fill your time with purpose, and speak to yourself like someone who deserves calm. And if at some moment that sting appears, why don't they look for me? Don't turn it into drama. Turn it into a reminder. You're not here to wait. You're here to live with dignity. If this video helped bring some order to your mind, subscribe to the channel and walk this path with me. And write in the comments a phrase that represents us. I cultivate my garden. And tell me which country you're listening from, because here you're not alone. Here we are a community learning to stand on our own without begging. My name is Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. On the screen you'll see 2 videos to keep going deeper and continue building that calm that depends on no one. Choose one and keep going, because when you become your own home, silence stops being frightening and becomes freedom.